Hello, ladies. Welcome to the podcast Living in Your Feminine with me, your host, Victoria Janke. This is a safe place for you, sisters. We're going to talk about all the feminine subjects, what it means to be a woman, how you thrive as a goddess, how you be successful in business. But we're also going to talk about subjects that people don't normally talk about, like miscarriage, because we want to educate people and also that women don't feel alone anymore. I have amazing experts who are going to give you so much value. So get a cup of tea and let's go. Welcome to another episode of Living in Your Feminine. Today's guest is Kylee Campbell. She's born in California, living in LA, but a global nomad at heart. She lived all over the world. She's an actress, a lifestyle influencer specializing in all things wellness, travel, fashion. And she is known to throw iconic dinner parties as part of her supper club. Serious. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm a bit tired, but I'm way more excited about today now that I know that you're in town. Hopefully, maybe moving back to LA.
Yes, I'm in LA. Oh my God, I lived in LA for 3 years and I haven't been here. When did I leave? Like over a year ago?
Probably about a year ago.
Oh my God, and now she's back.
She's back.
Back.
And I'm not letting her leave again.
Well, I'm very happy you're here today. And we have been friends for a couple of years now. And we actually met at an influencer trip to Las Vegas. I'm just remembering.
I just remembered that too. I completely swiped that from my memory. I think that trip for both of us was so comical and funny and didn't result in anything productive work-wise, but it did result in a beautiful friendship. So I am thankful for that trip just from the pure fact that I got to meet you.
Yeah, but we should, me too. We should tell the listeners what we did. So we get invited as an influencer to like these trips. We go like to different countries or different cities. We stay in hotels and we do content. And this trip was supposed to like create a TV show about influencer girls. And so these three guys invited us. And we were staying in this house and then literally they just took us out partying. I was like, what
this sounds so bad.
It sounds like, really bad, but we had contracts. It was really like professional, but it didn't end up in anything. But we met and so it ended up in something beautiful. It ended up in our relationship, friendship, you know?
Yes.
So I'm very grateful. And we have been sharing a lot of things. And our last trip to Mexico was very emotional. We went really deep. And today I also know we're gonna talk about some subjects like about aging in our industry, right? Especially living in LA. I'm 33 now. You just turned 29.
29, yes. We'll go with 29. No, I actually just turned 37. And a few years ago, if someone had asked me to say that out loud anywhere, even if you had tried to Google me, my managers and whatnot had put in a different age. It's so funny because ageism, especially in LA and Hollywood, is such a real thing still. And it's total BS, but yes, I just turned 37 and I've finally come to, I guess, a safe place of owning my age and not feeling like I have to lie about it for the industry or for dating or any of these things. That's not to say, though, that I still feel punished sometimes by the industry, that I don't get a job because I'm truthful about my age or that I'm not meeting as many guys or having success in dating because I'm upfront about my age in a city where almost every woman lies about her age and is told to, or not told to, but encouraged by our industry and by guys, quite frankly, not maturing fast enough or not ready to settle down. So they're dating younger and younger because, there's this like idea that if you're dating a woman in her 30s that she's going to want babies like tomorrow, which isn't, that's not true, right? It is a thing. And it's something that I don't think we think about until you start getting in your 30s. And I want to say I didn't even think about it till I was like 35. And then it's like, oh shit, I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
But
it's very like sitting on the couch like we basically do right now here at Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
But yeah, so until you were 35, you didn't think about having kids. You were like focused on work. It just didn't come up in your...
I mean, of course, like I had thought about it, but I was never one of those women or girls. Like I have friends who grew up who always knew they wanted to be a mom. That's their goal, and that's a beautiful thing for them. I think for me, it didn't kick in till a bit later. I think for me, I definitely prioritized career and work and didn't have that overly instinctual, like, oh, I need to be a mother sort of instinct until a bit later. Age 35, and I don't know if I'm just kind of thinking of that number, you know, of that's when it sort of became really real for me. Like not all my friends, I actually in LA feel like I have a lot of female friends in New York and LA specifically that prioritize their careers. But, you know, people start having babies around you, people start asking you more and more like, oh, are you ever going to have children? It becomes a thing on dates, and like I said, men get nervous about dating someone age appropriate for them or even the same age, because if they aren't really ready to have kids, then they're starting to date younger and younger, and I feel like your dating pool just gets smaller and smaller. And I don't think men take into consideration a lot of the time the mental toll that has on a woman. And also, you know, I've been in relationships where I thought this is the one. I thought, like, you know, I don't need to freeze my eggs because I'm, you know, looking at rings with someone, or it's going down that pathway. Or you start dating a guy, and in the romantic first few months or whatever, and they're saying all these things like, I want to have kids with you, and you know, sometimes it's love bombing, sometimes it's genuine, but you just like feel a sense of security with that, where you're like, okay, I don't have to freeze my eggs, or like, this is it, my time is coming. Like, I'm dating guys that are serious about wanting kids. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, whether it's like a shift in their career path, or they don't think they're in the right place financially, they're like, oh, well, I'm not going to have kids till I'm 40 something. Well, I'm 37. Like, that biological clock now isn't like, oh, are we going to have kids? It's like, that becomes a maybe, you know? And I know you've frozen your eggs. And I'm definitely now very much considering doing it. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I froze my eggs when I was 30. For me, the number 30, and that's talking about aging, right? I was literally, while I was listening to you, I was like, wow, is it really my thinking when I was like 29 and I was about to turn 30, and I got like so scared that I'm not, because I was single then, right? I mean, I'm single again, but anyways, then I was single too. And I was like, okay, I'm going to turn 30. I'm going to freeze my egg cells so I don't need to worry. I don't need to stress about like dating a man, because I heard these stories from men I was dating, and they were dating 35-year-old women, and they got very anxious about having kids, and they put pressure on them that they didn't like. And I was also listening to you, and I was like, it's so interesting that people ask us like, oh, do you want to have kids? But I don't like ever remember that someone would ask a man in our age like, oh, do you want to have kids? Right?
Yeah, it's actually something that I've recently, now that I've started, so I got out of my last serious relationship. When was that? Like
we
last
both ended,
summer.
Same time last summer.
So almost a year, and now I've been dating again, and I've actually feel more empowered now with being direct with questions. And now, right up front, if I feel like I have a very strong connection with someone, one of my first questions is, do you see yourself having kids? Do you want to have kids? And I am actually in a relationship now, and it's been a big topic of our very hard conversations, because it started with like, yes, I definitely want kids. And then I think, you know, it's easy for men to say that because they imagine down the road, the family, but they're not actually thinking of like, a lot of the times, I don't want to group all men into one category, but a lot of the times they haven't really sat with themselves and thought about the timeline of when they want to have kids. And so even as a female asking, like, do you want to have kids? It's easy for them to say yes. Whereas we as women have sat and been like, do I really want a kid? What does that mean for my life? When is that going to happen? Because we have to think about our biological clock. Even if you've frozen your eggs, you know, there's only a certain point of those frozen eggs being able to viably carry that to term. So it's like, okay, I thought I was asking the right questions of like X, Y, Z. Where do you want marriage? Do you want kids? Where do you see yourself? But now it's like, oh, wait, I have to go so much deeper than that. It's like, well, when's your timeline with that? And they're very tough conversations, and men think about it very differently than women. And I don't think they take it into consideration very much of what that means to a woman. I think men a lot of the time think it's on their timeline of like where they are financially and career-wise, when in fact it should be on the women's, obviously in a relationship together, your combined timeline, ideally, in a healthy relationship. Yeah. But it is the woman's body, and it is a ticking clock, biological clock, and it seems very unfair in a lot of ways. I've definitely cried a lot about it, talked with therapists about it, because I have no regrets at all prioritizing my career. I have loved the path that I have been on and all the experiences that I probably wouldn't have had I had children earlier. But in a world where I feel like we're being told choose one or the other, or I don't know how, but to do both. Like, choose your career and be this masculine energy woman, or be super feminine and be a stay-at-home mom. It's just, I don't know, it's very confusing. It's very hard. I don't know where I was going with this. I had a clear line of thought.
I love that. I actually want to touch base on that, because it's you said two very interesting things, because a lot of women think they have to be masculine to be successful, and also a lot of women, and I was at the same place where I'm like, oh, I need to, and I talk with my coach about it as well. She was always like, why do you think you can't have both career and family? Yeah. And never came in my mind that I was like, I always felt like I have to choose. It can't be both, right? But I actually feel it can be both, but but it would be great if you have a supportive partner who's like, okay, let's do this together. And we both love our work. So I don't think I will ever stop working, because it also gives me purpose with what I'm doing. And I feel it's the same for you. You love your work and your dinners and your influencer work. I see how much passion you have for it, and you're feminine when you do it. So I feel like this is a big thing in our society, where we as women think we have to make a decision between both. But I really wish for, especially for the women who are listening, to realize both is possible. And I have some friends, they're very successful, and they're single moms. I mean, it's stressful. And I have like so much respect for them, but they do it, And if you have a husband or a boyfriend who's like, or a baby father who's supportive, this is great. But also, like you said, the timeline we have, because men can have babies even if they're 60, right? We can normally. I don't know, maybe in the future with AI, who knows? But
I don't know. Apparently someone just in there who's 65 had a baby, and I don't know if there's truth to that. I'm going to have to look this up.
Well, but yeah, it's changing the time, so we don't need to worry. But yeah, so, and I feel, so how do you feel about it? Do you feel like stressed? Do you feel like, oh my God, have you ever thought of just having a baby by yourself? Because I was thinking, okay, if I don't have a man by then, I frozen my eggs, so I'm just gonna be like doing it myself, like my mom, she was a single mom. Is that something you would consider, or is that you really want like the husband and then the kids?
I would definitely consider it. I think for me, having, and again, I give so much credit to all the single moms out there who are working, providing, and raising children all on their own. I think it's definitely something I'd consider, especially getting older and having a strong community of women around me. going back to that idea, you know, we used to raise children in community, not in this very separated, isolated way, but like the grandmothers, the mothers, the friends, everyone would help out. And I think you are seeing kind of a return to that, and I feel more empowered having an option to do it on my own. I think the biggest thing for me with that, and this isn't for everyone, this is just a personal thing, but for me to decide to have a child on my own, knowing the hardship that's going to come without having a partner to help with the burden, I maybe burden's the wrong word, the joy of raising a kid, but let's be honest,
can be also burden. We have,
it's
tough. We have dogs.
Like, I don't want to sugarcoat it. Like, but for me, I would just have to be in a financial place where I felt like I could do that, you know, on my own, and give that child everything that I would want to be able to give them. That's not saying like I have to be super, super wealthy or anything like that, because I know there's plenty of moms that make it work either way. So yes, it's something I would consider. And going back to your point, I totally think it's definitely doable to have the career and be a mom. And we, at the end of the day too, like all the women that are listening, we just need to stop also shaming anyone that chooses to be a stay-at-home mom or 100%. To have a career and not have kids. Everybody's different, and we should never pressure any woman into doing anything with their body or raise, you know, deciding to have a career and raise a kid. That's amazing. If you want to be a stay-at-home mom, that's also amazing. And if not having kids is what speaks to you and you want to be a career boss woman, that's equally as amazing. So I just think that there's a lot of different paths with the timeline and dating stuff where I do feel something like I personally need to work on or figure out. And obviously as I get older, I think about this more and more, is people's opinions or like boyfriends or people in my life saying like, well, I don't want to have kids until this age, or family members not being super supportive and just saying, well, maybe kids aren't in the cards for you, which, by the way, nobody should ever say that to anyone, but especially a man should not say that to a woman. But
I agree.
You know, I start questioning myself. I'm like, well, wait, are kids really important to me? Would I be devastated without? Would I be fulfilled without having them? And I start like, and you never know. I don't know the answer to these things. These are just questions that keep coming up for me. And I think that I'm definitely influenced by obviously what's being told to me in the conversations I'm having. But again, I don't think necessarily you'll ever know until you have kids. If that's like, I personally think I would always question or feel like I was missing something if I didn't have a kid.
Yeah. I mean, I was, when we talked about it last year, I was pregnant and we were very excited about it. And then we lost the baby, and it was like, I remember having all these emotions from like, I'm super excited to like, oh my God, I'm freaking scared. I'm going to be a mom. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? This is like forever. This is not just like a dog, you know, that you can give to a dog sitter whenever you want. This is like a freaking, like a baby, you know? And then I also had issues in my relationship while I was pregnant. And I remember one of my girlfriends, she was like, Victoria, whatever happens, you can do it. Like, you can come and stay here with me. We like raise the child together. You have like all your female friends supporting you, your family. And I mean, this is like when you look back in the days, that's what women were doing, you know, raising children together. The man was giving the sperm and bringing the meat on the table, you know, the women were like raising the children together. So I believe there is like, and that's why I'm doing the podcast, because I want to create a community of women. And that's what you do with your dinners and I do with my events, is creating the supportiveness between women, where we can achieve anything, where we can do the career, have children with a man, have it on our own, you know, but like really supporting each other. And I believe this is the feminine, when we start, you know, like helping each other again. And so I really think, and I like in this whole conversation, I keep thinking in my brain, like, are these thoughts that we are thinking are our thoughts, or is it something from the society? Because sometimes I ask myself as well, do I want kids because I want kids? Or is it because of something like all of my friends having kids now? Or, do you ask yourself this?
Totally, all the time. And it's hard because it's like, okay, I really need to like sit and meditate with myself or like talk to a therapist or life coach and figure this out. But I've done all those things, and it's still, I think it's really natural. Obviously, it's one of the biggest choices. Like you said, it's not like having a pet. It's a huge choice, and it will forever impact your life. So I think it is really natural, and we're so preconditioned by society and all this stuff. And there's constantly things coming at us now of ideas of motherhood, to be a mom or to not be a mom. And so I think it's natural to have all of those. And yeah, it's frustrating. It's like, wait, are these my thoughts, or are these everyone else's thoughts?
The society, because that's a lot what's happening with women, right? It's like we get all these like stigma, and a woman has to be like this, and if she's if she's like successful, then she's very masculine, and if she's like standing up for herself, then she's complaining. If she's staying at home as a mom, she's just like, lazy. There's all these like stigma that we get as women, where you're like, okay, wait, hang on, this is not me. This is what you're telling me that I should be. Yeah. And I think this is the same with like having to choose, do I want a family or kids? I feel like this is society telling us that, either you're going to be like this masculine working woman, or you're going to be a house mom, a housewife, a mom that stays at home. And I really hope, and also with this like podcast episode, that we really like break this, that we start like feeling what we want to feel, thinking what we want to feel, that like not what society or like, I love men, but or what men are telling us, because it's a very masculine dominated society. And I feel we as women, we need to feel safe again in our feminine, and like stand up for ourselves. And I don't even want to go into like the whole abortion thing here in the US. Like,
oh my God, don't get me started.
Oh my God, I remember 4th of July 2 years ago. Do you remember this? We were like standing in the line to go to the toilet, and the line for the women's toilet was so full. So we were like, why not lining up where the men are? Do you remember we went in the toilet, and there was like this rude dude, and I don't even know how like this is coming up now, but we were there, and we started to have like a little fight with them, because they were like, what are you doing here in the men's toilet, or something like this, and we're like, why can't we be here? And then we had like a whole fight. And
I mean, that could be its own podcast. I mean, there's so many ways, there's so many discussions to be had, but I think like going back to the beautiful thing that we were talking about, community building with women, and that's
tell me about your supper dinners.
Well, that too, and we'll definitely, I'll talk about that too. But going back to I just wanted to speak to that, because I think that there is something that female friendships and female community can provide and will provide that is so much stronger than what a man can provide in certain ways. And that's why it's so important to embrace female friendship, female community, because that's always going to offer you something that a man cannot. And there are things obviously that a man can offer you that female friendships can't, but
a dick.
Definitely a dick.
No, actually, no, that's not true. You can buy these sticks and put it on you.
But no, in terms of, I go back and I remember like my ex a few exes ago, I got really close to his grandparents, and his grandmother and I would have these deep conversations, and she knew we were in a rough place, and she knew and I knew that we were probably breaking up, but we would have these talks. And she just said to me something that kind of really stuck, and it seems like such a no-brainer and such an obvious one, but she was like, one of my reasons I've been married for so long and have had a successful marriage is because I stopped looking for everything in one partner. Like she said, basically her husband and her have some major differences, like for instance, political views were different, or there's just certain topics that she couldn't talk to him about, or things that she couldn't get fulfillment from him. And she said, what has made my marriage so strong and whatnot is my female friendships and my female community, because she was getting her fulfillment from them, and also had this, not putting all this pressure on to be completely fulfilled by one person being your partner. Like, obviously a healthy partnership you want a lot of fulfillment from, but I think that's why it's also so important to build female community around yourself, because they will always be there for you. There's something that they can offer for you that men can't. And then you're filling your cup from all different places. Okay, so you can't talk to your partner about politics because they have a different viewpoint or they don't like it. And I don't know why I keep using politics as an example, but it is a big topic right now.
It is.
So then you go to your female friendships where it's a safe place to talk about that or whatever the subject is, and you're fulfilled by that. And that's part of, so yes, I started...
Wait, I want to, before we go into your separate dinners, I like what you said about not filling your cup with your partner, and that's I believe in that you should anyways not be like, oh, this person needs to make me happy now, right? You should like work on this for yourself, and then this is a nice add-on. And I like what you said, that female friendships actually, you're not just putting everything onto the partner. He needs to be like, no, agreeing with me on the politics. He needs to eat the same food. We need to be so aligned. It's okay. Like, we're all different, Like, also with your female friends, you accept them how they are. And I think it's very beautiful when you have female friendships. It also helps you to be in your feminine. And it helps you to, not just be focused on the relationship, like I was that as well, where I became very dependent in my relationship, and everything was all about my relationship, and anything else was just like, oh, work, female friendship was just going. And I ended up in these abusive relationships because of that as well. And I had to break this pattern. And I believe we should fill our cups from different parts and like be able to fill it anyway. So I just wanted to talk about this again. But yeah, tell me about your dinners and like how this idea came together, because we're doing something similar. I also do my women's events, and we both building this beautiful community. So yeah, tell me how this came up and what your goal is.
Well, I've always loved hosting and cooking and hosting and cooking for people, and that's always been like a love language of mine. And I guess to how the Supper Club series kind of started, you need a little bit of a backstory, but I'm French Vietnamese American, so food has always been a huge part of my family culture. And I also grew up moving around a lot, which I loved. I was taught how to be very adaptable at a very young age, and was very blessed with getting to experience all these different places in the world and different cultures and different people. And I wouldn't change that at all. But with that also comes a little bit of trauma of not having one place that, I never had that one set of friends that you grow up with, moving around all the time, uprooting your life, changing is traumatic for a kid. And I don't think I really processed it or understood until I was getting older, and I realized I really didn't have a sense of community. And I was craving it. Like, I really wanted a community, and especially with females, because growing up I was very athletic, again, very adaptable, how to move around a lot. I just ended up with a lot of guy friends, and I think it was just easier because guys are so casual, and women can be really horrible and rough to each other, and I was bullied by women growing up quite a bit. So it took me a long time, one, to like regain trust in women, and two, like I never had that core group, so I was really craving that, and kind of just went back to my roots of what felt like home, or what, throughout all these moves and living at all these different places, like what always felt safe, what always felt like community. And it was always around sort of the dining table or food, and coming together over that, because that is something you can do anywhere in the world. But I also had memories of it. And I being in LA now and New York before this, I was really had to focus on my relationship with women. And for the first time in a very long time, I feel very lucky that I have such a strong sense of community. But that was really me deciding to open up my home and create this supper club series, because there's just something more intimate when people come into a private residence or a home versus going out to a restaurant or a private club or whatever it is. When you're out in public, it's a different vibe, it's a different feeling, it's a lot of fun, but it isn't as intimate. And when I started opening up my home, and it started with just having a few friends over and cooking small dinners, and because of Instagram and the business, people started noticing, and I started having brands reaching out saying like, we love what you're doing, can we sponsor an event? Which allowed me to, instead of having 4 people over, now I could have 20 people over. And it felt amazing. I thought, people would come and stay for 2-3 hours. And I remember the first few events I threw, it was like 2 a.m. I was like, okay, I love you all. This has been great, but you got to go. Like,
I need to sleep. I need my sleep.
But this is amazing. And I'm so thrilled and so honored that you guys felt safe and felt comfortable and were having fun. And it just kind of blossomed out of that. So a return to supper club. I mean, I grew up in England, so very much used to like the Sunday lunches or supper clubs. And I wanted to make something like that. And in LA, we have the luxury of having a little bit more space versus New York. So I was able to create the series in my backyard and at my home. And they've just been so much fun. And I've loved hearing people's stories. And I just feel like a deep connection outside of work. I mean, this. We go to events all the time. We meet people all the time. It's never a lack of socializing, but at events it can be very surface level. It's
not deep.
It's not deep. At the end of the day, it's work too. Like you're trying to talk to PR, you're seeing 50 people that you haven't seen in a minute, and it's a very it's small talk a lot of the time. So I wanted to veer away from that, and opening up my home allowed that, and it's been so beautiful. I feel like you too, with your series of bringing women together in the wellness space, is probably a bit of what you were craving as well.
Yeah, I want to create with Grow and Glow. We have the similar goal. I want to bring women together and create this community where we are first of all safe to be in our feminine, where we connect on a deeper level. And that's what happened at our Miami event. I literally had women coming up to me and they thanked me because they were building this really deep connection. They were crying together and really building a friendship, and that was so beautiful. And also what you said, just circling back, that you got bullied by women. I had the same when I was younger, and it really took me some time to trust women. And now you're such a girl, me too, and we love our female friends, and we had to heal this. And I feel also, sorry if I keep going back to the society thing, but I also feel this is something in the society where we where they put us as women, we compete with each other, we're jealous with each other. The same in the modeling industry, people are so surprised that I'm friends with other models, and they're like, oh, I thought you're all jealous of each other. I'm like, bullshit, this is what you tell me. And mostly it's men. It's no, we're actually friends because we don't listen to what other people tell us. It's we want this friendship. And I think once you're open, once we are open, the other women are becoming open. At least I hope this is what's happening, and I'm sure with what you're creating with your beautiful dinners and what I'm doing with my women event, we're helping to build this. And if for everyone who's listening, you can also start doing this. You can have, invite some friends, some female friends, go together, have a coffee, invite a new girl in it, and really start creating this feminine community. And I think this is actually a very good ending for our podcast.
I know. I absolutely love that. It's and like Victoria just said, don't ever be shy to DM a girl or invite some of my best friendships have started online over Instagram.
Same.
And then, yeah, and having the courage to just be like, hey, babe, you want to like grab a coffee or like go on a hike? And to be open to that and not shy away from it is so beautiful. I mean, there are no mean girls allowed. That's such an ugly look. We're done with that. We don't know her. She's gone. Like, don't be that girl, because both of us having been on the other end of that, it doesn't serve anyone at the end of the day. So
and it makes you lonely.
Yeah, it makes you lonely. So just embrace your female friendships and don't be shy to make new ones or reach out. Definitely don't be shy.
Yeah, and there's a lot of women out there who are craving these female friendships. You would be surprised how many women are like feeling alone, and they're craving like the bestie who's sitting on the couch with you, drinking a tea, listening to Living in Your Feminine or whatever, watching Disney movies, you know? So like really like maybe I want to challenge you, like today write 3 girls on Instagram you haven't met, or like go in a supermarket and give someone a compliment and exchange numbers with another girl and then meet up. So that's our little homework from Kylee and me. Oh my God, this was so beautiful. I'm going to link your Instagram. And is there anything else you want to tell the girls or anything else you want to share?
I think that was great. It was beautiful. And thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Thank you. If you like this episode, please rate, subscribe, and share with other women. Let's create a community of women living in their feminine and supporting each other. If you want to stay connected with me, you can come and follow me on my personal account at victoria.janke. Until then, I see you next Thursday. Be thriving, goddess, and live in your feminine.